Kalishe.
Good evening, everyone, and you're welcome to Podium Television. My name is Titilola Aboyadeko, and you're welcome to the first episode of Matters Arising, where we'll be discussing a lot of issues affecting the country called Nigeria and its people, and why a lot of people think they are fed up. Not even think they are fed up. Why a lot of people are fed up, why so many things are happening, and about a lot of developments. With me here in the studio is Mr. Kayode Emola, who will be deliberating with us.
Thank you very much.
And our father, Mr. Alex Ajala. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm happy for you to have me today on this your program. We hope that we'll have a nice time talking to our people.
Thank you, sir. So today, we'll be talking about independence. Today being the 2nd of October, 2021. We'll be talking about independence in Nigeria. Yesterday, some Nigerians celebrated the 61st year independence, the 61st anniversary. And a lot of Nigerians disagree that it should be a thing of celebration. They actually believe it should be a day of mourning. Mourning as in, it's believed to be a day where instead of getting independence, people got merged together who didn't want to belong together. They lived together for so many years. They tried to live in peace and harmony, but that is proving to be very difficult at this point. Now, I'll invite Mr. Kayode Emola and Mr. Alex Ajala to let us discuss what independence actually means to different people. So, Mr. Ajala, you have the floor, sir.
I want to say I greet everybody who is on air listening to us. I believe we talk about independence. I've never felt that we had independence right from my primary school days. I used to call it Irora, Agba Irora, because from early days, I believe that we should not have had independence together. At primary 3 in 1957, we heard that Western region was given what you call self-rule. It was actually supposed to be a sovereign rule, which is an independent nation called Western region of Nigeria or Yoruba land. But instead, our elders then opted to say that they are going to wait for their brothers from the north. Their brothers from the north took their time, and having examined all the options and knowing that they were going to control everything that was going to be Nigeria. Now, I agree that in 59, around February, just before the elections of December 12, 1959, decided to say, okay, we now have self-rule. You see, there has never been, even when we were amalgamated, there has never been what we call a unity of purpose. So saying that we have independence is a sad story to me, but to a lot of us who do not know what independence means. We think that it's a glory of the Atilio Impolo or Alandashi Jobawa. Are we really doing doing any justice to that so-called independence? No, I've never agreed that we had independence. Even as on the day of independence, one of the leaders who discussed for independence. I didn't say fought for it because it was never fought for. Chief Obafemi Awolowo and his last Governor General, Sir John Rankin, were thrown into the crowd. They were not on the high podium with the likes of Azikiwe, Amadu Bello, Akintola, who was Igbákejì, I would say, of Awolowo, was the Premier of Western Region. You see, there had been what I would call a fault line was created on that day, but we refuse to see it. A fault line telling us that you, Yorubas, are not part of this Nigeria. Even though you are the most educated in every facet, you are the most developed, to the point that even other countries come to your land to come and see what you are doing, like the Singaporeans, and then the Malaysians who came to take seeds from our research stations, the oil palm seeds. Yet, our leader who made this possible was thrown into the crowd. But some of our Yoruba people were happy. That's a sad. As a little boy, I was very unhappy. Why did we do this to ourselves? There was one Oshinowo that time. I understand he was a teacher. He was one of those who went about crying and talking that we should not be part of Nigeria, until he was murdered 5 years later because his message could not get through to the ears of those who were gloating that Awolowo was imprisoned. I said gloating. There were people who gloated about. The chief still believes so much in Nigeria, even in prison. But the question I would have wanted him to answer is, did our forefathers create this Nigeria we are so much trying to protect for others to exploit? That was what it is. And you can see what has happened today. Every institution of governance is controlled totally by the Fulani government that we have. We don't really have, in fact, in 2015, when they set up the first institutional arrangement for governance after he came in, before he spent so many months before he selected his ministers. We saw that out of 32 institutions, 28 were controlled by the North. Then I told my friends that if 28 institutions of governance in Nigeria is controlled by the North, it means we don't belong. So why are we still holding on to it? I always wonder what is wrong with us that we cannot see this big picture, that we are really not wanted. All the industries in the South have been destroyed. What are we celebrating? Independence? No. We are celebrating the gradual destruction of the future of the Yoruba race because we put ourselves into it. We must gauge our future in trying to protect Nigeria, just like one pastor is saying. If I wish to, most of these people, I like to engage them to discuss this issue. Did your forefather create Nigeria? If he's from Akoko, does he not know that his forefathers fought these Fulanis out of our land? So why are we blind to the truth? Why are we walking blind? And that's what a white man said. It's only the willfully blind that we see that Nigeria, as it's considered, can never work. And that was Peter Smithers on July 15, 1998. In the that was Financial Times? No, the Times newspaper. The other publication was in the Financial Times of Sunday, July 9. After a northerner gave a very clear and ominous statement that Yoruba land is cut off from Nigeria, they can have it. They are cocoa producers and they are intelligent and all that. The rest of us, that the northern politicians said, the rest of us will continue Nigeria as we know it. So they cut off.
Right.
If you look at River Niger, I've sent out this thing several times. I will continue to send it out. I don't know if the copy is nearby me. I've shown it. We had already been exiled from Nigeria since 1998. And each time I went to the Nigerian embassy, I see some of my friends who are northerners will tell me, I mean, Nigerian embassy, which happens, the house who happens to belong to Western Nigeria. That was our general's office, where a lot of things were sourced for the development of Western region. And that's another area we are going to discuss, just picking out those points. They were saying to me that in the event of Nigeria breaking up, Western region, the Yorubas will take back their building. So that's why sometimes when this young man said he was going to bomb and destroy, I said, how do you want to bomb your property?
Own.
It belongs to us.
Mm.
So I had to explain to him before he understood. And many others who were during the rally pulled it down. But pull what down? It's our property. Our campaign, there are a lot of properties Western region has in London, but they've been taken over by federal government and they messed it up. Some of them, they did not pay the rent, like on Condi Street, what became the Nigerian Airways office was messed up and they lost it. Our property, Western Nigerian property. And some of you would know where the in Lower Regent Street in London, on the corner where the National Bank of Nigeria was. That's also our property. And then where you have now the RBN, just below it, that was Western Nigerian Broadcasting Services property, that big building. There are so many all over the place, but the Nigeria took them over and messed them up.
Thank you, sir.
So what are we celebrating? We should be crying that we have continued to tie ourselves into a Nigeria that destroyed our future.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. What do you think should have been done to have could have been done to have avoided this kind of mess that we're in today?
I believe that, like I told Adebayo, because we wrote a book on this issue way back 1999, that every nationality in Nigeria should go its own separate way to develop according to their own pace, religion, and their vision of a life. Because nations are built of the people of a common ancestral origin. That does not qualify Nigeria. And at this junction, I want to speak to all Yoruba radio broadcasters. Think deep before you broadcast. Nigeria is not Orílẹ̀-èdè Nigeria. Tẹ́ bá fojú inú wò, Orílẹ̀-èdè Nigeria. It's not like Orílẹ̀-èdè Faransé, where they speak French. Orílẹ̀-èdè Germany, where Orílẹ̀-èdè Japan, that's all Japanese. Please, for God's sake, ẹ̀mí kan lẹ̀kẹ́ tó máa sọ̀rọ̀ nípa Nàìjíríà, orílẹ̀ Nàìjíríà ni kẹ́ máa pè é. It goes my mind. Some children here in families, when they come back home from school, we ask their parents, what's the Nigerian language? And they cannot answer it. It has happened all over the places, even in America and here. The children will ask, what's our Nigerian language? And if you say it's Yoruba, then they will ask again, what of the other people? Do everybody understand Yoruba? The answer is no. Why are we not growing up to see the stark truth of the fact that we should not have allowed Nigeria to exist so long? Balewa said it in his book, that even in 1953, when there was a conference, he said that every region should go its own way, develop it according to its own way, control its own resources, have its own foreign services, but not a central government but a cooperating arrangement for trade, just
Thank
like you have amongst EU. That was a very wise positioning then. But what did we do? We wanted Nigeria at all costs. It's the Yoruba that wanted Nigeria at all costs.
Thank you.
That's
very
the
much.
cause that is destroying us. Look at all our industries, they've all disappeared. LSC, there was a key thing. If the federal government controls electricity distribution out there, what happens? These people who are developing too rapidly, let's cut it. Let's pretend that we are going to increase electricity for them. Let's pretend that Ijora Power Station is not good. Whereas it has converted to diesel. It was no longer firing coal, as at the time it was stopped from generating electricity. Oh, let's pretend that we are giving them a fire station from gas. Where is it? Where is the step-by-step development of infrastructure?
That were already there before.
That was already there before, matched with the increasing population and demands for growth. What Nigeria has caused for us is a gradual degeneration into poverty, which is staring us in the face today. The poverty level is so high.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kayode, can we have your own angle on this, please?
Thank you very much, Coach Titi. Just like our dad, Mr. Ajala, just enumerated, of a truth, there's nothing to celebrate. I saw a lot of people, and especially our Yoruba people, who are campaigning and advocating for an independent Yoruba nation. I think it's time to reflect on what we actually want. It's not a time to become happy. It's not a time to be dancing. Some people were going for parties yesterday and singing and shouting hallelujah. But what they did not know was that we getting our independence in 1960. How did we get the independence? That's what everybody should ask. Because they say when the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. How did we get our independence? Like Mr. Jalal just said, our daddy, he said, we didn't fight for it. We only got, it wasn't really given to us as well. So let's analyze how did we get the independence first before we celebrate what we got. Now, Britain went to war with Germany, with the Allied forces. The war started in earnest in 1939, and in 1945, the war ended. And when the war ended, Britain became very heavily indebted. Their indebtedness meant that they could not hold their empires anymore. So they were indebted to Canada, they were indebted to Australia, and they were indebted to America. And it meant that they had to let their empires go. And one of the conditions America gave was, you need to let these people go. So what was the first instrument they set up in 1946 to allow British relinquish their empire? That was self-determination in June 1946. And once that statute was incorporated in the United Nations Charter, nations were free to begin to demand their independence. And a lot of nations began to request for independence. And that was when the civil rights movement also took off in earnest around the 1950s. So the British, not wanting to let go, negotiated a constitution in 1951, which we refer to as Marsh-Fassing Constitution. So that constitution was to give semi-self-rule. Semi-self-rule was to say, because the British argument was these people cannot rule themselves. If you give them, they will not be able to do it. They were looking for an excuse to still hold on to whatever empire they still had. And as we on the western region of Nigeria, as the luck we had was, we had a visionary leader, Pa Awolowo, who negotiated the self-rule and became the first premier in 1952. And so there were opportunities for us to take our sovereignty away at that time. The talk of Africa then was Pan-Africanism, Africa to rule Africa, Africa for Africans. But a lot of people, even up till today, do not understand the meaning of Pan-Africanism, which I'm not going to dwell on that for today because that's a topic for another day. So the British didn't want to go. So what the British systematically did was they took these Northerners who are semi-educated. They took them to Europe, trained them to come take over from them whilst they leave. The British knew that if they do this, they will still continue to have control. And in business, it doesn't matter the name of the company, it is who is in control of that business. And the British have always said it, that they've not come to develop our land, they've only come for business, they've come for trade. And anything and anybody that stand in their way, they will take him out.
Wow.
It doesn't matter whether it's a king or whatever.
I think I need to make some obvious comments on some of the things you said. If you look at the reports, for example, we did not, Awolowo did not negotiate for self-rule.
He did not negotiate, but he was given self-rule. The British didn't want to go.
Hold on. The three regions were offered self-rule. The North said they don't want it. The Eastern region took it too. But at the same time, British officers were goading Western region to get out, because you said a very important point that they knew that we were not right to rule ourselves, but we held on to Nigeria, the West. So there was a time Awolowo was interviewed around that 57, which is on record, and they were calling Western region a nation on its own. But Awolowo said, enlightened Nigerians want Nigeria to stay. And the Pan-Africanism issue you mentioned, the Africans should have known that the countries created in Africa are not African countries.
Exactly.
That's exactly one of the key things we should be hammering.
Yeah,
because of that, we cannot be negotiating for independence on the basis of the construction that the Europeans created. Exactly. And that's why there's a statement in East Africa that says, "Uhuru not yet." If you understand the depth of that, then the Yoruba people should have pulled out of this thing, because the warning was
totally
there.
Agree with you,
the warning was there in 53 when they had this discussion. I call it not negotiation. That is the British that is keeping Nigeria together. And
that is why I said the Pan-Africanism.
Yeah.
The Pan-Africanism they were shouting was Pan-Africanism based on European arrangement. You cannot have a Pan-African based on European arrangement. If we want to have a Pan-African, let Africa sit down. Honestly, let the 54 nations in Africa sit down and say, let us retrace our boundaries. Let us, it does not matter whether you are French colony or British colony or Spanish colony or German colony, or let us retrace our boundaries. Who are our closest people? Who are the people we say we can form a nation with? Like the Ewe people of Eastern Ghana and the Togo people and Republic of Benin would easily form one nation because they speak the same language. But these people have been balkanized into 3 different countries. Now the Eastern Ewe people do not speak Twi. And if you go to Ghana, they speak Twi. Twi is one of their predominant language. They have their cans. And these people don't understand themselves, but they are in one country. They are managing to keep it to work, but it is an European arrangement. So those who are shouting Pan-Africanism, there are so many dimensions to it, which would come into another day.
Yeah.
As this is Nigerian independence, that's why I want to keep
I'm afraid what you're explaining is very important, because that will help us to understand the meaning of independence, not only in Nigeria, in all other African countries. That's the major problem we are facing. Please,
exactly.
My brother,
I know. I'm just
please,
trying to
I'm enjoying what you are explaining.
I'm trying to unbundle it a little so that our people can understand it. Because if we don't understand, like I said in my speech, that if the purpose of a thing is not understood, the abuse is inevitable. So the Fulanis, from the start, the British had promised them that it doesn't matter what happens. It's just like 3 students going into an exam, and before they sit for the exam, you're already telling this person you're going to come first in the exam. What you're telling that student is you don't need to read, you don't need to struggle, you don't need to fight for anything. You just appear in the exam hall, write your name, and you will score first. And so that's what the British did. And so what they carefully did was...
I want to differ on that. The records don't show that.
Well, the records show that.
Let me explain what
because
happened.
The North are not one.
I know the records don't show that.
The records show that. Why did they share the South into 2? It was Southern and Northern Nigeria. It was not Southern.
Okay, let's hear from the elder.
Let
Papa explain why.
Because the Fulani had conquered the most of the northern Hausa land.
I think it's an illusion we all have that they've conquered.
Hold on, it's not an illusion. Hold on, let me explain to you. Lugard was the architect of this, not the British. Lugard forced the British. If you go through several documentation, including if you go to the rare books section, 4th floor in the... I have one of the books that in the British Library, and the administration of Nigeria from 1900 to 1960, detailed out. In fact, the British forced the Northerners to be part of the creation. They forced them into it because they had to eliminate the Sultan they met and the Emir of Kano using Yoruba soldiers. But when they wanted to defeat the Egba, who was saying that they wanted to be independent, it took up to 1918 before Egba land became part of Nigeria. You go to the records. So this man was playing games, but he was able to cajole Lord Harcourt to signing the paper to bring the administration of the North and South, because he was told that he was no longer going to be giving money to run the North. Churchill also told him that jettison the North is not fit for purpose. Please go
until today, it's still not fit for purpose.
That is why I'm telling you that don't let. Yeah,
but the British acquiesced to it.
Hold on. Let me tell you exactly what happened. Even as at the time of 1951, Balewa was still saying that, look, I don't want to be part of Nigeria. Let us have an agreement with the French territory Dahomey so that we take our products through there. Some officers in the, some British officers in the North, not the British government, now try to convince him that it's best for them to cooperate with the people in the South because they are landlocked. Understand? But when they hold on, let me tell you where the big problem happened that we do not always refer to. There was a meeting in 1947 in Ibadan where they were going to decide. 32 people represented the South, the southern Nigerian area, that is East and West. 18 represented the North. Yeah, these 18 were able to convince the South. We gave them the opportunity to take what they wanted. Go through the records. Some of our elders who are not going to lie will tell you that we gave so much to them. From our
we're still
own,
giving, we're still giving a lot.
Because the consistency that became one state for the North was as a result of the distribution of district council offices. The West got only 57 district council offices. The North had one state because of the large expanse of land, that they had to take care of a large expanse of land, and then each district officer, as at that time, particularly the Europeans who were governing, they were not Africans governing them.
Yeah,
they were going to take over that. And this 168 and 57 and 77, and the rest, I think, became the 312 constituencies that were contested in 1959. I sent out a paper that if our people were wise enough, we have said that we are not going to have that election in 59 until we have a clear referendum. I sent out some of those papers. So we put ourselves into that jeopardy.
Yeah, and that is the problem we are still having today, where people are saying, let's go into 2023 elections.
That is why when I make my deposition, I always make sure that those facts are clearly stated. Although the British this interest was in trying to keep Nigeria together against French.
Yeah, but the only place I agree with you
were about taking over the land between Kishi to Lokoja, including Ilori province, Kaba province, up to Bonu. During that,
the only argument I have.
So, and hold on, and as a result, we find ourselves into this. Why did we, highly educated, not look ahead? Instead of being averse to British presence, instead of, even though the British allowed us to develop rapidly than any other part of Africa, Western region was the signature of British colonial rule in Africa. And they were very proud of it, to the point that they were saying that if Awolowo was a prime minister in Great Britain, would be a very successful one. But one thing they did not say if he was prime minister of Nigeria, because they knew Nigeria was an impossible thing. And the records.
And that is why I make the point. Because when you said British officers, British officers would always work for the interest of the British government. If the officers were not doing what the government wants, the British government had the opportunity and the power to remove them.
I agree with that point, but what they said in some documents, just keep peace. Don't let us lose this land. The French are watching. So
and that is what the British
the French have taken over most of the middle part of that country.
And that is what the British government is still doing.
I will again send out something now, a diplomatic defeat of the French by the British in 1898, which finally gave us the boundaries. Then it was still not called Nigeria. The name now came up into use at the end of that diplomatic distance, because the name had already been aired by some papers. We could have been called Nigritia or Lugadian or New Sudan or Western Sudan. Or like I said in my book, we could have been called Lugadian, just like Ceci Road called part of Central Africa Rhodesia. It was a possibility. And that's why sometimes now people like Oyedepo, who are so bent tied to Nigeria. Nigeria really have loved to be called a Lugadian or a Nigritian. These forefathers did not create. So let us look at the reality of the fact that we had the fault of continuing to be part of Nigeria. Because we were saying we are going to wait for our brothers when we had the opportunity to leave in 59.
So like the article I wrote this week.
Yeah, I read it.
Looking at what we can offer. And one of the salient point was the fact that we missed the opportunity around the 1950s does not mean that we have to now give up hope.
No,
We just need to
I agree with you. We should not.
We just need to understand how our pain has happened. So in terms of, like I was saying earlier, when Britain, in wanting to keep Nigeria, because Nigeria was a great, it's a great question. In 2011, 5 CIA officers, 5, they wrote a book, about 200 and something page report, I would say. It's more like a book. And the perspective was, they were looking into failed states and states that could fail. And they picked Nigeria as an experiment. And in that book, the prediction is that by the year 2030, Nigeria will become a failed state. And between 2027 and 2029, 2030, that Nigeria will finally become a failed state. There's going to be a civil war in Nigeria. And I guess part of their reckoning was that Goodluck was going to be in office for another 8 years, because that was their prediction, that Goodluck was going to be in office for 8 years. And a northerner and somebody else will come to become a president in Nigeria for another 8 years. And after that 8 years, a radicalist will take over power around 2027. They say a radicalist will take over power around 2027. And when that radicalist take over power, he will try to northernize and Islamize everything. This was in the report. And when that happens, it's going to lead into a civil war. And but what they did not predict is when that civil war happens, they said it's not going to break Nigeria. That's the CIA report.
Yeah, I will tell you also that the CIA report is faulty.
Yeah,
because they did not go back to the beginning of what made up Nigeria and what were the reports of Clapperton, and even the reports of even the same Lugard we are talking about that warned our people. They based the report on the ignorance of our intellectuals in the West, that we are not going to use our brain to think of the alternative for not allowing us to continue to fail. Because we've already failed since 1960. I would say that country had failed since 1962. All we are saying is an attempt.
We failed in everything.
The CIA is not, the CIA report should not be a platform for, although it's good for them to say that, but we know that we have the right to look at inwards and find answers to our problems.
Of course, I was going to come into the reason why the CIA wrote that report.
Yeah.
The CIA wrote that report because America, as it stands, is taking 25% of the resources coming out of Nigeria.
Then let me.
And that is what they are trying to protect.
Okay, let me tell you something that the CIA did not put in. When because I will tell you, I happened to be in contact with many people. Right from 1971, I was in contact with one of them when we went to a work camp in the Togo. And I still have some friends amongst them. The point is that they are looking at us highly educated, not using our brains. And that's what this Peter Smith has said, that most of us, and then a friend of mine in the Foreign Office, that we do not sit back to examine what we want for ourselves. We are always waiting for somebody else to make comments on what we are.
Exactly.
And that is wrong.
And that is why I took us into where the issue of self-determination came from. in 1946, because it was after the war. Britain already knew that they were going to leave. And the current Prime Minister of Britain, Boris Johnson, his younger sister, I've forgotten the name now, his younger sister was among the people who were employed by the British government to work on the decommissioning of the colonial empire.
Boris Johnson's younger sister.
Boris Johnson's younger sister.
No.
Was among, yeah, I know.
Elder sister, you mean?
It is his younger sister.
What year?
Well, it's his younger sister.
How old is Boris Johnson himself?
No, what year? Are you talking of 1940s or 1950s? Cannot be the younger sister.
Probably the elder sister, but
that's what I'm telling you.
But she said
she could have been part of the team. But
she was part of the team. She wasn't the main people. She was part of the team.
The person that was in charge was Oliver Littleton. Check the records.
Now, Oliver Littleton was for Nigeria. I'm talking of the British Empire as a whole. They had to employ quite a lot of staff to look into decommissioning.
Yes, also Oliver Littleton was also part of that. This thing.
Yeah. So I'm not saying
in West Africa they didn't have. In Africa they didn't have many of their so-called empires except the big Nigeria. And I'm very happy you mentioned something that is key to what I want to explain. You mentioned that Britain was broke. What did they do in 1948? As broke as they were, the first thing they did was to start free health service and free education for these people because they did not want the suffering of the people. 1954, Western region, without much resources, but rearranging the collection of tax and the money given to them, £2 million as a start-off with a provisional budget, started the same thing Britain started. So that's one of the reasons why that is they started free health and free education and development all over the place in industries, research stations, training centers, all over the place. Some of us still remember these things.
And that's what has created jobs.
They did not stop us. You see? So if we keep on trying to, they did not stop us. And 3 times they put disclaimers. You know what I mean by disclaimer?
Anybody can put disclaimer on a product.
It's not anybody. And they let us know. It's very important. When you ignore
disclaimer is a different thing. Body language is another thing. Disclaimer is, I'm going to say.
But when you have disclaimer and body language in law, you go with disclaimer.
That's why I said
their body language was different from the disclaimer.
About body language. What body language? I don't want us to argue on that body language thing. The point is there are very clear statements. And I know at some point during the coup, when the North wanted to go, right from the beginning, the North had always wanted to go.
I don't know whether you read the article of the British High Commissioner to Nigeria yesterday.
No, I have not read that one.
Yeah, where she was saying that Nigeria is a stronger democracy and the British government stand ready to help build Nigeria democracy.
Unfortunately, democracy in what sense? That is where me and you will tell them that they are wrong.
That's why I say
because
statement is a different thing, body language is a different thing.
They are playing politics with the future of our people. And we will warn them that they should no longer play politics because they are not going to decide our future. Are we deciding their own future? The way they are managing their NHS, the way they are managing their Brexit? What help are they going to give to my people who have no roads? We don't want that help. And that's why I believe that we should stand tall and argue this thing to the ground. If it has to become a world press conference with them, we have to do it. We have the right to claim our future. What type of democracy? A democracy that somebody puts everybody from his village into office? So exactly. We do not accept whatever you see. I want to address our people that whatever the West says about as Nigeria is concerned, they are going to help us. We don't need that kind of help. Nations are built on the same basis as they are here. Soviet Union disintegrated after many years of amalgamation. Czechoslovakia disintegrated. They are developing according to their wish and their belief and vision.
May I ask you a question?
You see, these are you see new countries like Estonia, Lithuania, and others. One of them is one of the centers of internet connectivity worldwide. If they were still part of the Soviet Union, would that happen? So thinking about the High Commissioner talking some sweet talk about protecting Nigeria, they are not protecting anything. Rather, they are going to foster the spirit of murder and mayhem.
Okay,
and that
Mr.
is what I would
Jonathan.
tell anyone. If I'm invited to the parliament, I would tell them the same thing. Let us develop our own thing. When you left us alone during your own control of our land, we were highly developed. It is not now that we have some miscreants leading the country, and then we start to play the ball of passing government from one area to the other. That's not democracy. The North is going to rule next, and the other one is going to rule. Yet everything is this. We are not participating in international innovation and development. Our research stations are not working. Then you say you are protecting. What type of democracy are you protecting?
And that is why I say British interest. British interest has always been.
Whatever they are saying should not stop us.
No. I'm not going to base my argument on what they say.
And just like even the CIA report has missed a lot of things. Right from the beginning, the Fulani people had already wanted to take over the land of the South.
And that is why I said the British gave them that assurance in closed doors without our knowledge.
I'm afraid I disagree on that.
Well,
no. It is their own wish to do it, because we made the mistake of allowing that 47 to happen. That is when the consensus were distributed, and which I argue that because there are certain things in law that if you don't have the facts, don't say it.
Exactly.
Because there's something that even the prof said one time, that certain people were, some leaders of the North were with one of our young ladies who wanted to come to England after the Second World War in 1946, because the English were now taking.
But the fact that it was not documented does not mean that it's a lie.
But it's a fact. Hold on, it's a fact. I know of it. It's not about being documented. It's a fact that it's said. But we should not think all the time that there has been some sinister motive, unless it can be proved. Because if in the court of law, you say, were you in that meeting? I think my lady, Boyade School, just mentioned that, because I'm basing my argument on facts, and the point again is that we don't want whatever the British or the Americans, or even you look at the Russians, they say the Africans are not ready to. In
the Lugard 1919 report, he stated it clearly that the reason for him amalgamating the North and South was finance.
Yes.
So they have not shied away from it, because as at that time, the British have spent nearly 3-point-something million to acquire the North.
And to develop the administration in the North, not acquire.
To develop the administration. Yeah. They have spent 3 million developing. Yes. So they don't want that money to go.
Is there in some of the papers I have?
So they don't want that money to go.
In Lugard's report, article number 10. And that was part of the beginning. And it was not only that money. The British wanted to pay back 250 million pounds to South Africa as reparation after the Boer War. And then Lugard was one that, and that was why Churchill told him that he should jettison the North because it was not fit for purpose. He went around and told other officers in the Foreign Office that, look, If we leave that place, the French are going to take it over. That means we are going to have a smaller area of control. That was the ball game. They were playing about Africa. That's why I say our problem started from Berlin. The problem of Africa started from Berlin, not the people who came to cut and quarter trading posts for themselves, which we believe are colonies. They're just mere trading posts.
And even till today, it's still trading posts.
Yes, and that is, and then I'm very happy you mentioned it again. During the time, it was almost getting to a stage where the certain oil producing area were going to take over their land and form a nation. Do you know what the Americans and the British said? We are going to trade with whoever controls the resource. That is the purpose of trade. If the Niger Delta broke away that time, they are still going to trade with them. If they, as they are saying with Nigeria, they are still going to trade with Nigeria. These are some of the mechanics of thought that we should, as Africans, look at. Trade is the engine that brings people together. If you are in control, just like I look at some of the resources, even in the Congo, if I drift, the Congolese man who comes from the land who has escaped from his village and comes to the capital, and then he now tells the white man who wants to trade in oil or a diamond that we have diamond in my land. He acquired the diamond to himself at the expense of his own people, and the people become poor. Then we now say that, oh, the white man has taken over this. What if that man bargains? Because in trade, you have to bargain. If you bargain on behalf of your people that this diamond you are coming to take from my land, my people must have a share of it. What we see in Africa is that these people now become billionaires.
I like that dimension, which I was going to come into that dimension. I wanted to lay bare the facts of what we face externally, and then now bring it back to what we face internally, because it's in two phases.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Look, so after the first phase, which is what has happened to us externally, we will now come to people who are our power brokers. In the past, we talk of our great leader, Chief Obafemi Awolowo. Today, we have leaders of thought in the South.
Did they really think?
That's a question for them to really answer. I would beg that they think, but maybe what they think might not be in the interest of the people.
That's correct.
Yeah. So, like, because you said somebody who is going to negotiate on behalf of his people. In 1998, after the death of Abacha, when Abacha died, and there was this talk of Abiola must become president, or else the Yoruba will move out. One way or the other, Abiola passed away with the conspiracy, well, not conspiracy, that he was killed. To pacify the South, they said, we will give you the presidency. Go and bring somebody.
2 people.
Go and bring 2 people and we will choose. Now, the South brought 1 person, which is Olufalaye. The North brought Olusegun Obasanjo from the South. So even though Olusegun Obasanjo was a Yoruba man, he was handpicked by the North. And so in so doing, he was always going to do more of the biddings of the North.
Yeah, so
some people claim Obasanjo's presidency is still the best if you compare with Goodluck, Yar'Adua, and the current administration.
I beg to disagree, because he was functionalist. Because if he was, although he saved money for the country, all the projects he started as the civilian military president that were not completed, he never went back to them.
Obasanjo said those projects were dilapidated to the extent that he could not.
And that is not true. That is not true. That is not true. They can be rescued.
Yeah.
Can I just contribute? Well, say what we can say, whatever. People can say anything they like about his administration or anything. But for us, for the younger ones, from my generation and below, Obasanjo's administration put Nigeria on the global platform. It included Nigeria. I'm coming to. It included Nigeria in the global village where we are today, and that's why we have access to the internet. One of the things he did that we are grateful for, my generation and the younger ones are grateful for, is the fact that telecommunications in Nigeria, like the mobile phone, that was during the Obasanjo regime. He might have done a few other things that might be wrong, but he did a lot of things. And he's a very firm man, because obviously the military background. He made a lot of things happen during his own administration.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think about
But
that.
at this, if you will want to remind you, what of infrastructural development? Why did he abandon the fact that for a country to develop, it must pair up infrastructural development with the growth of population? Number one, electricity. Lagos water. Lagos metro lines. If he was a very good one, let's talk of the communication, the internet and the mobile phone. Why did they allow the grand landline to die? That landline is the key to development. You cannot use satellite telephony to develop industry. It is not possible. So you see, these are the things. I'm sorry to, he tried to save money, and then I knew, because I was very close to him, but not close to him. I knew the difficulties he had. The institutions of governance that he managed were almost all of them, the top of those institutions were Northerners. So every decision for him to take, like he wanted to repair the oil refinery, with the institutions of governance and his political party, he said that those politicians don't want the oil refinery repaired because they are importing oil for Nigeria. But we should have stayed that way. Is he not in the authority? It means he played into their hands. The young ones,
and that is one of the things I want us to now look at.
Yeah.
To say
he played into their hands, and even the Kerego Dam, I'm saying, the water is still full of it. All you need to do is to get the new equipment. The equipment have been bought. Will somebody tell me that there's no money in Nigeria to fix those dams?
And that
or
is,
even
and that,
the one
and
that
that is one of the
completed.
things because of bureaucratic governance system, which is placed so much power. Is it that these Northerners have so much power that our politicians, even as powerful as Obasanjo, is scared of them, or we overrate the power they have? Because power is supposed to belong to the people, and power is supposed to belong to the electorate. Are we saying our people, the masses, are helpless in the face of all this oppression?
I would want to answer that the people don't know they have the power, because when they are giving a few stipends, they are Babake, they should be rejecting those things because their future is being mortgaged and destroyed. And that's the picture I see. The people don't know they have the power of sovereignty, which is one of the articles I wrote and I've distributed many times over. I will again start to redistribute these things because I want people to know that we have the power of sovereignty to say no to the rubbish of government, to say no to that, the fact that we don't have electricity, to say no that we don't have water in our homes, to say no that we can no longer continue to have floods from Oyo Dam. Oyo Dam is supposed to have been supplying water into reservoirs in Lagos for distribution to the people of Lagos. That was done since 1984. Oyo Dam was opened by Buhari, and then the Chair of Governance at the center refused to continue the final development of the purpose of Oyo Dam for irrigation in those land and for water supply to Lagos and for increase of electricity from that dam. Currently, they still have 9 megawatts generating capacity, which is unturned on. Is that development? Rather, it is creating poverty in us. That 9 megawatts is enough to serve the whole of Ogun State so that the other electricity that is available should be dispatched to other places. So you see, I've seen all these type of things you said. Who has the sovereignty? It is not the government, it is the people who gave it to them. And if the people are unsatisfied, just like you see in Britain here, the power of the people supersedes the government. The people will say, this is what we want. And then the government will now go and sit down to find answers to the demands of the people. But in Africa,
it now brings me to
we seem to forget that we have the power.
I don't know whether we still have more time, but you are muted. So that before I bring my
we're actually running out of time.
Okay.
How many more minutes have we got?
7 minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
So I want to hear my bit,
so
for
instance, many of all these important things have happened without the people voting for one phase or the other. The amalgamation in 1914, we never voted. It wasn't presented to the people to say, okay, do you want it or not?
That's correct.
The semi-self rule in 1951 wasn't presented to the people whether they want it or not. It was good. We enjoyed it. We accepted it. The Independence Constitutional Conference should have been taken to the individual north, south, north, east, west to say, go and give it to your people and ask them whether they want to form a union with Nigeria, just like the UK was asked in 75, whether they want to form, because it was all trade, like we established, it was all trade. And the UK was saying, we want to establish a trading partnership with these 5 European countries so that trade within us would be free. If we have our own independent Yoruba, we could decide that Republic of Benin, Togo, Ghana, Gambia, let these 5 nations, let's form a common trade area, but not a political union. So people weren't given the opportunity. And now, despite several calls, this has been rejected. Should we not be preparing to have that discussion now before we go into any further elections? And why is the government not pushing that narrative? Instead, they are pushing the narrative that go and pick up candidacy just because they know the system is rigged against the people. And our people just need to understand that I told my professional group, I told them in 2015, I said, APC or PDP will not save you. They would only compound your problem. And now APC are saying they would have been happy to have a Goodluck Jonathan as president rather than Buhari. And now we have a Buhari. If they are allowed, if our people go into 2023 elections, it will just be another routine for punishment of another 4 years. Because the economy is so bastardized now that there is virtually nothing to run the country. Nothing at all. There is no money in the government coffers. A government that is now using close to 90% of our revenue to pay debt. I don't see how Nigeria can survive without borrowing money, either from the World Bank or from the Paris Club or from China or from Switzerland. So this is the time, I believe, we need to now critically look at it, that the Nigeria state at 61 is not a viable state.
It's a failed state.
It's not a viable state. If it is a company, it ought to have closed down 20, 30 years ago. And if our people think elections will save them, elections are not the solutions at all.
Thank you very much for that very sunky thing. I would want to add that it's not only that it's a failed state, it's an amalgam. And like you said, if it's a company, an amalgam that's a company, which is Nigeria itself, when there's failed, it's bound to be dissolved. And that's the stage at which we are. We are not going to wait for the prediction of CIA. It is our own decision that we no longer want to be part of a failed state. It's already failed right from a long time ago. I kept on saying it's from 1962, when Western Region became a stooge of the federal government. That was when that country failed. We have been trying to patch it up since then, and we are trying to find every formula, and every formula has not worked. And that is why I want to tell my fellow Yoruba people to wake up to reality. We don't need Nigeria to survive. We did not need Nigeria to become the dinosaur of the whole world in the 50s, when we were highly developed. We want to go back to that beginning again. And when we start, we are not even going to, before we ever consider the World Bank, we will fund our own development internally, because we had the people, the manpower, and the knowledge. I believe we can do it again, so that we can restart our own nation, rather than the clamor of some people who happen to have the power of the crowd, like Oyedepo and some all others. I want them to tell their crowd, did their forefathers create Nigeria? That's the question I want them to be able to answer. If they created Nigeria, then they should tie their apron string to it. And if they did not, they should run away from it, or else it will destroy the future of the Yoruba race.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Mr. Ajala, and thank you, Mr. K, for this very, very enlightening session, very educating. And this is where we say thank you and bye-bye today, but we'll be back same time next week. The topic that we treated today was independence. Is it a blessing or a curse? So from both arguments from our panelists, it's obvious that it's something that's not really working. And I don't know if it's something that is worth celebrating, because it's actually a day, it's a remembrance of a day where things that are now falling apart, where they came together. So it's actually the foundation of our challenges 61 years ago. And 61 years on, I don't know if we're still meant to be celebrating. Well, that's all you'll be hearing from us today. My name is still Titilola Aboyadeko from Podium International Television with Mr. Ajala and Mr. Kayode Emola. Next week, someone else will also be joining the panelists. She was meant to be here today. Her name is Mandi Oriyomi Balogun. So you're going to be having 4 of us next week discussing, taking this a step further, because the matters arising in that country, they come up every day. So thank you very much, and goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me for today.